Hello world. So I had made a post earlier today, and I can't remember if I made one last night or not. A lot has again happened, as seems to be. You think with quarantine it would be very slow and boring kind of lifestyle. For me, not so much. There's been a lot happening, and I was reminded today that amidst the busyness and the restrictions and all the rules and regulations and things like that we are losing something that's very valuable and very important. And I don't think we are even recognizing or realizing it. Tonight, the Lord reminded me what it was, and He lovingly showed it to me through two fun, playful canines, which was a real treat. I got on my knees and started roughhousing with them and playing with them and, pulling out that squeaker toy and squeaking it. And, oh my goodness, my roommate's dog got a little bit barky, and my girl got all wound up, and oh, she started running like circles. So I took her outside, and then they started going crazy and just running the yard. And I was running across the yard, with my, I don't go barefoot because it's kind of cold, so I got my socks on. So I'm running across the yard with my socks on, and roughhousing them and teasing them and throwing the toy. And in that moment, I had an absolute, unadulterated, sense of joy and peace. And I didn't realize I was even missing that. And I was like, wow. I walk my dog. I talk to my dog. I hang out with my dog. But when was the last time I just let myself just be free? No rules, no regulations, no restrictions, none of that. And it was kind of a hard thing to swallow because I have been living under so many rules and regulations. I hadn't even realized the weight that I had put on my shoulders until that moment. And that was kind of crushing. It was really shocking, actually, for the realization that I'm a very fun, loving, joyful person, but yet I can't touch anyone. I can't love anyone in that way. And if someone touches me, I've always struggled with that for reasons. And but for someone to do that now is even more foreign, and it's something I want, but it's even more foreign because it's so against the rules. And it's crazy when human connection is something that's 6 feet away and you can't actually access it right here in front of you. Like not being with my church and corporate worship, and not being in my church and listening to the message, and not being, with coworkers in a in a business place or within distance. My job is me, myself, and I, and Jesus. It's what it is. I get to see my customers, but, we can't touch just from a distance if I do see them at all. But it's just interesting. I really find that, we are losing something that is so valuable and so important to us, and we don't even recognize it. Kids aren't allowed to go play in playgrounds. You're not hearing their laughter. You're not seeing their joy. Kids are shuttled aside in houses. I remember the first time I realized that, wow, there's a kid in the grocery store. That shouldn't be weird. That shouldn't be foreign. But it was, because kids are right now shut up in houses. They might be walking down the street possibly with their parents in a very constricted kind of environment, but for the most part, you don't see kids right now. You don't hear their laughter. You don't see the joy on their faces. You don't hear those silly questions. You don't hear, them crying in the stores or begging for something or getting into mischief or running underfoot and getting in your way. We don't have any of that right now. Our kids, our sense of joy, and our reminder to stay in this present atmosphere with joy-filled hearts and laughter and unadulterated fun. We don't see that right now. We have animals, but I have a very serious dog. So she doesn't always remind me very well. But tonight I really got a round up, and so it was great. But that really kind of made me think, man, maybe I should shift my environment. Maybe I should shift my environment to find that and have access to that. I love my job, Instacart, yes. But what can I add to it, What can I add to it that's going to remind me, laugh, joy? I've been secluded-wise, hanging out with certain people, and it's been so wonderful. And I've found moments of joy. I really have. But just in every day, away from people, it's easy to lose that. And I feel that calling so hard on my heart to access that. And today I accessed it. in the most unseen way, but I needed that reminder to remind myself and remind you guys, I guess, because that's what I'm talking about tonight, to really reach into that. Where does our joy come from? Where does our joy come from? Yes, from Jesus, and yes, from within us. But what brings us joy? I mean, I love to paint, and but for me, it's a serious thing. It's not a joy-filled per se. I love to write and, do poetry and spoken word, but it's very serious. It's not joy-filled. Where's my joy-filled center? I just got a picture. That was kind of a funny picture, but if you think about those little chocolate eggs with the cream centers, where's our center, Where's our cream-filled center with Jesus that brings us so much joy? Immediately the thought was animals. I need to surround myself more with animals. And I am a big animal-loving person, but I have learned through the years and hard lessons from people that it is not as well welcomed as I had always presumed it to be. I actually lost my love of animals big time when I went to college because my identity became the person who loved animals. And I woke up one day and I was like, they know me nothing but that I love animals. And that should be an okay identity, but for me, that really was not okay in college. So I packed up everything and I put it in boxes and I shut that life down. I stopped. In secret, I would, still look up things and that sort of thing. But I didn't want people to know me just as a person who loved animals. But that's a huge part of who I am. And that's a huge part of what brings me joy and what shows me joy and what God can speak through. I worked at many different doggy daycares. Always very serious, always very commandier kind of style. Because I am not controlling, but I like order. And I like obedience. So I can be very commandeering when it comes to the expectations. I have very high expectations. My dog knows that for sure. We go for a walk, and our walk is a whole training session. It's a fun walk. It's very relaxing, but it's us constantly working because that builds the bond. I think of the leash as, in a sense, a telephone connection. I read her, she reads me. We have that communication back and forth. And if she's off leash, it's an invisible kind of connection then. But it's just the fact that that's who I am. That's my joy-filled center is animals. And I've shut that off for so many years because people told me that's all I ever was. I shut that off because people basically decided that my identity was what they saw and not what they saw inside, but just who I appeared to be. Sure, my shelves were filled with animals. And my wall was plastered from top to bottom with animal posters, I ran around and was like, oh, that's that breed. And people would be like, okay, that's a little weird. But that's who I was. And God still was able to bring animals into my life during college. He's brought dogs and he's brought cats. And since then, yes. But I've really shut that down. And I think it's God calling me back to it. And so I am actually reaching out to see if I can get myself back around, whether it is a Humane Society or some other organization. I think that's something that's really important, especially this time of quarantine, because everyone is suffering in their own way, and we need reminders. And I love my dog dearly, but she is a very serious, very well-trained, disciplined dog. So she is not one that's going to go grab a ball and say, can we play? She's not. She's also traumatized rescue as well, so that's a big part of it. She's learning her dogginess, but it is a step-by-step process too. But she's not a big ball-loving dog. She's not a big, get in your face, slobber all over you kind of dog. And I'm not that kind of person that really likes those kind of dogs, but that's the kind of animals I need right now, especially in this time of quarantine. And that's my joy-filled center. But what is yours? Is it painting? Does painting bring you so much joy that you just laugh and are so involved in it? Or writing? Does that do that for you? Writing children's stories really makes me happy. But again, like anything I tend to drawn to creativity-wise, I tend to go so deep inside myself with Jesus that it can become very serious and very a process, less so of a joy-filled center. But maybe that's not so for you. I can tell you, though, that sometimes writing writing does give me a high. It sounds silly, but I used to come out of tests and writing tests, I'd be like, whoo, like I was jacked up on sugar. And so writing does give me a high. But lately, like, I've been writing such heavy stuff that it hasn't felt that way. But maybe there's certain things I should be accessing, and finding new ways of finding joy within the seriousness too. Because it's so important. I mean, it really is, world. Where's your joy? Is it crocheting? Is it taking a walk and picking up leaves and identifying them? You know, where is your joy-filled center? What brings you so much joy that it's just so uncontained? I just think back to where, like, you know, I worked at doggy daycares, but I didn't allow myself to find the joy within them. I worked in places with animals, but I didn't allow myself to find the joy. There was so much unjoy around myself. I don't know if that's actually a word, if I just made it up. There's just so much unjoy around myself that I just made working with animals. I loved it, but it was a chore. It was a serious thing. But really, it's something that is just so much joy. So much joy is packed in there. And it's so easy to lose sight of that, especially in this time of quarantine. Like, what brings you joy? What makes you smile? What makes you laugh? What makes you say, God, I can't believe you did that, you know? What's going to God use through that joy to teach you lessons? I think maybe now is the time we need to access that. The time that we need to really figure out where that is and what that is. And I guess that's kind of the lesson that God wants me to speak to tonight, is just to share with you all. Let's find our joy. Let's find those unadulterated, fun, joyful, childlike moments. I know I lately have been reminded, Papa's definitely been reminding me lately of things I used to do when I was a kid that were absolutely ridiculous. Like, I made a bold statement last night, and I totally was not let go of it the whole night. But that was okay. But it was just a fact, like, when I was little, like, I was drawn to action and violence. And it sounded not like death, murder, gory stuff, but just things that kept moving. A lot of action and stuff. But then yet, that was the kind of child I was growing up. I climbed trees until they couldn't climb any higher, and then I climb out on a limb and hang over, you know? I was that kind of child. I was a child who climbed in hay mounds and climbed the hay bales and wasn't supposed to, but, you know, I did. I crawled around in the, you know, the grain bins and did things I wasn't supposed to do, but that was just the kind of child I was growing up, you know? If I wasn't supposed to do it, I probably did the whole, can I touch this? Can I touch this now? How about now? Okay, I'm just going to jump in. But that's the kind of child I was, you know, putting sticks in my mouth, running around, teasing kids, you know. That was before, you know, the world came in and changed all that for me so suddenly, but that's the kind of child I was. And that's a child that the Lord adores and He wants back. And if this is my start to getting there, even more so, like dance and worship, oh my word, can I find Him and can I find so much joy within it? I didn't even know I was a dancer, but I guess we all learn things. But yeah, where is your joy? Where does it come from? Who were you as a little child before the world came in and took it from you? Who were you up until that point the world said, that is mine now? Or that is all you're going to be. Those are just lies. Just such lies they are. You are more than just what you love. You are so much more than that. You are more than what appears on the outside. Someone made the comment yesterday too. They're like, well, I mean, you're an animal lover, but I know someone else who's more. And I'm thinking, maybe not. But you don't really know. Because I don't show that. And I've actually become, I realize, very guarded about that. So, if that person is watching, now you know the truth. But yeah, there's so much more to me in depth than people could guess. Because I've gotten so well at hiding it, so what people see is what they perceive. I have a lot of secret hidden doors. I do. But I have a lot of joy-filled doors. They've just become, well, somewhere along the way I just locked them. But now I need to find those keys. Maybe the Lord just needs to keep giving me those keys to unlock them. I mean, the ability to have so much spiritual insight of late has just been miraculous. Like, I go anywhere now and I'm like seeing things and hearing God, and I'm just so much involved in who He is and what He has to show me. Like tonight, I'm just sitting there and I'm just listening, and I'm like, I'm not bold enough to speak out loud. But I have no problem about just typing a few things in the Zoom chat and be like, this is what I see. For one of the ladies, she was asking for prayer, and I just saw all of a sudden like this beautiful purple flame. And I didn't exactly have the right words for it, but I just started writing. And the words that came out, I was shocked. It was just a purple flame over her. But that purple flame ended up being, a robe of, a reminder. It was not just purple flame, but it was a purple robe that signified royalty for that young woman. That she was a princess and so beautiful in Jesus' eyes, that is what he wanted me to tell her. But he couldn't just tell me, himself, like, just tell her this out loud. I'm still working on my shyness. But it's getting a lot better because I'm talking to you guys. But that's the thing, so, like, the Lord is showing me things like this. And there are so many doors, and not just in my life, but I'm sure there's tons of doors in your guys' lives. That people have just said, that's all you're going to be. And you're like, I don't want to be just that. Let me lock that door. I'm an animal lover. Maybe it's time I started showing that. I love Jesus. Maybe it's time I started showing that. It's so easy to be like, these dreams are never going to happen. Why should I even pursue them? But let's live in the impossibility. Let's live in the impossibility because we have a possible God who's going to make it possible. I've taken a lot of paths and turns, and I don't know where God is leading me in life. But he showed me a beautiful vision the night I got healed, and of a dream. And it was something I had never envisioned, and something I could not myself comprehend. So I know it's in the Lord himself. And that's where I'm sitting when I think of my love for animals is important. It's not some silly passion. It's important. It's important to him. It's important to his kingdom and what I can do. I pet sit, yes, but there's so much more to that than that. What can I give? How can I combine Jesus and animals? That's a good question. How can I combine Jesus in everything that I love and that brings me joy and happiness? How can you combine Jesus in things that you love? How can you bring Jesus and his word and his beauty and his majesty into what you love, into your cream-filled center? There's that chocolate goodness around it, but what is your cream-filled center? Think about that tonight. Think about it and really sit in it, because I'm going to come back tomorrow and probably talk about something else, or maybe come back to this. Who knows where the Lord leads? I didn't expect this at all, but I'm loving it. I can be a very serious person, and I can be a very joy-filled person, and it just depends on what I'm talking about. But I really feel this bubbling up of joy and this eager expectation for what the Lord has for me, for the Lord has for you guys, because this is the truth. When we find our joy-filled centers, and we really start accessing them, we start throwing open those doors, that kingdom will start moving like a major earthquake, and it will rock and roll this world. It just will, friends and family and world. It just will, because we can do so much under our own power. We can do so much under what we think we can do, but we can conquer anything when we put Jesus in it. We can conquer anything when we put Jesus in it. That's just a fact. So let's put Jesus into our cream-filled centers. Let's open those doors, and let's find out what we love. Let's find out who we are, and where the joy-filled center lies. Let's do it, friends, world, family. Let's have fun with this. Let's not always be serious and talk about heavy things. Yes, share the good news, but you can share the good news with your joy-filled cream centers. You just can. What you love, you can share Jesus through. I don't know how I'm going to do it. I don't know how I'm going to get there. But I have something in my foresight, and I love it, and I want after it. I mean, there's a lot I'd like to do right now, but, we are under quarantine, so I'm kind of restricted. But take off that weight. Take off those rules and restrictions, because I felt it so heavy that I didn't realize how burdened I was. Until I looked up, and Jesus was like, you forgot about this, daughter. How could you forget about this, So let's go out there. If you have a dog, go out there and play ball. Go out there and wrestle with your dog. If you have kids, go and play with them. Play a tea party. Play with Barbies. Play trucks and, whatever they love to do kind of thing. Football, baseball, Let's go out there and let's find what brings us joy. If your kids bring you joy, then go for it. If your animals bring you joy, go for it. If your friends, find some way to bring joy into that. Do a Zoom game night. We started doing that with my youth group, small group, and it's been so much fun. And we're able to just laugh and really get spiritually deep, but just have so much fun with it. There are just so many ways that we can find our Joyfilled centers within this quarantine and within who we are and whose we are, because we are His. We know who He is. And we continue to know who He is because we are His. And we're on a continual lesson. We are on a continual spiritual lesson and pathway. And it is beautiful. All right, friends, family, world, I'm going to say good night. I love you all. Virtual hugs. Bye.